Hey, welcome back to DeFIRE AMA this week. We're no longer doing office hours. We've rebranded to an AMA, which, I think that makes sense. Um, so, I have been working on the DeFIRE Academy um, concepts for infrastructure and also just content. But there's a lot to think about on a high level, and so I've done a little bit of diagramming. Just a little bit of initial kind of um, housekeeping. If you have a question, as always, go ahead and drop it in the questions channel, and I'll keep tabs on that as we go. If you want to come up on stage at any time, raise your hands, and I'll be happy to give you the floor. To start off, I'm going to go ahead and drop a diagram that I've been working on in the questions channel. So in just a minute, you'll be able to look there for um, this kind of web diagram explaining all of the different connections between the different areas of knowledge that we'd like to um, weave together. There we go. So if you go to questions, you can click on that, and the full scale size image should be readable. So I'll just kind of go through a little bit of my thinking on the diagram, and I'll go back and go through some bullet points. Okay, so there's a couple of different things that you can kind of see have been delineated by color and by shape. Um, there's a couple of icons that are symbols that are the largest. We've got DeFIRE DAO, we've got the DeFIRE Academy, and we've got traditional financial investors. Um, and so um, then we've got slightly smaller, the Blaze and Ignite protocols, which are tied into DeFIRE. And then we've got all of these different areas of knowledge surrounding the DeFIRE Academy. Um, and then a couple of small icons for ways that these different pieces of the puzzle connect to Web 2 versus Web 3. So, if there's a way that a traditional investor might find out about us through a regular website that is not a crypto website, but has some sort of either an advertisement for crypto or it's just it could be anything, right? Because like YouTube is Web 2, any of those like social media sites that are not Web 3 that would draw people in. Or just like traditional advertising. And then there's this little cloud, and that represents some of the tools that are being built in the DAO space. And this one in particular that I've mentioned is called Unlock Protocol, and it's a tool, or it's a platform that creates an extension for gateways for social tokens. So, for instance, I could build a website, a Web two kind of a website through a provider like Webflow, and they have functionality to build the unlock gateway um, into the site. So thinking about how do you bring people into Web3, into crypto, into DeFi, while also reaching backwards into these um, previous iterations of how we interacted online. Let's go back and make sure I'm not missing anybody raising their hand. Okay, so You'll also notice in the flowchart that the arrows go both ways for the most part. And also, if you have any comments, like suggestions for ways to improve it, or just questions about why I've done things a certain way, feel free to drop those in the questions channel too, because this is just a working document, you know. So I'm sure that there's going to be things that can be vastly improved over time, but this is just kind of getting the high level view of how things can interact. So yeah, as far as the flow of information, we're going to keep developing our protocols. So information is going to flow back into the academy through knowledge about the protocol. And then, there are other protocols that are developing tools. There's going to be new terminology that comes up on a rolling basis, and that will go sort of like into that advanced DeFi knowledge, and that can be split into like, very advanced or just, more than um, more than a new person new to crypto. Kind of, there could be separate, different levels to that as well. I've just kind of grouped them there. Um, and then, one thing I probably forgot is just that, the knowledge about DAO governance that is connected to DeFIRE Academy probably also should be connected to DeFIRE DAO, because the DAO space is really a very quickly evolving space. We're dealing with ideas that are still changing and evolving in real time. So we're trying to use tools that are pretty new, and the people that are in charge of those platforms are creating those DApps are still building as we're incorporating them into how we function. So there's going to be a lot of interaction there as well in the DAO knowledge area. And then, um, you know, there's the fire aspect of everything. And that really, I mean, if you look at fire, obviously we are trying to create a space for that kind of philosophy in in uh, in DeFi. So most of the knowledge that's available is not going to be in a Web3 space, and so there's probably going to be a lot of things that can be brought to DeFi from that space that will have some sort of like tangible, real realness to them, like an actual an app or a DApp or a functionality or a terminology that comes about as we think about structuring and organizing our protocols around that concept. So I think that there's going to be a lot of evolution there as well, and a lot of what we could pull into the academy and into our community will be kind of pulling back from Web 2. So like having just having articles and different kinds of media about that topic in Web 3 is probably going to be a big opportunity. So I think that'll be even though there's a lot written about it, it'll be a big challenge to build it out. Whereas like the onboarding part, in some ways, is challenging because there's so much out there and it's all siloed. And so part of the challenge for the academy is to, ironically, to centralize the knowledge in one space. But then on the other hand, there's a lot of quality content out there, so it's not a matter of like having to create it. Oh, all right, I see your question, Broke Degen. Broke Degen is asking, how do you think the knowledge will be presented? Forums, articles, etc. Um, well, I think everything is going the the to the metaverse. So video is going to be the medium of the metaverse. Um, but we're in a transitionary phase, and obviously, if we're trying to pull people um, from from the traditional investment space, then we're not going to be meeting them in the metaverse. Although some of them may stumble through the metaverse and find out about DeFi. Um, so I would think that like the longest term value right now would be for us to be working in video. Even though, I mean, in order to get into into deeper thought, you've got to break things down in a way that it's hard to do unless you're writing it out in an article or a paper. So I think it kind of depends on what level you're at. If it's just for the new investor, maybe it's more on the video side, more on the um, social media friendly side, and then Medium articles. I think we're going to continue to write a lot of those, and we were really lucky to have so many people that are early to this space, early to DeFIRE that really are interested in writing in a really thoughtful and deep way. So I think we actually probably have a lot of opportunity to partner with DAOs that are not necessarily um, specifically concerned with DeFi. For instance, we have made some connections with some educational institutions. So, like, there's a couple of folks from London Blockchain Labs, which is an extension of University College London. These are all people that are thinking about crypto, and a portion of that group is thinking about DeFi in particular. So, I think there's an opportunity for us to write in a way that's more on the level of an academic paper that will allow us to intersect with those folks, and we may be able to bring in some really great talent as well as some very smart money investors through those kinds of channels. So, I think there's this like a big, Leviathan kind of like multi-tentacled opportunity of grabbing people from a bunch of different directions. And the challenge is not so much um, can we do it, but how do we do it efficiently and where do we focus right now? Because obviously, um, the part where I'm talking about integrating Web 2 and Web 3 stuff, that involves, like, it's not just a matter of grabbing people's attention. We can grow our investor base just by having a good product, and then eventually demonstrating that the product works well and creating video courses on that. Because the product that we're producing has sophistication on the back end that's hard to explain in a phrase. So, unlike a fork or some other protocol that's built on previous tech, it it's challenging. I mean, we've done previous iterations of what is DeFi, what is Blaze, what is the DeFi token, and I think we'll get better and better at explaining it. But I think that may not necessarily replace the just getting it in people's hands or getting people in front of it and seeing it visually. Just looking at the DApp and then looking at the APYs and the risk assessments and all that stuff, and being able to just have tangible understanding. And then just like having a good brand, looking professional, looking like we're the future, but like something that your parents might, you might on a good day convince them to drop a little bit of money in it, because that's going to be part of it. It's like, I think we can do a good job. We have done a good job of explaining to people who already understand this space why we have a good value proposition, because we're providing a combination of services that doesn't exist yet with the Blaze protocol, and how it will then interact with Ignite, and how we can build off of that into further expanding the ecosystem, how that all creates revenue and has real use case, and will provide sustainable returns for investors. That's all stuff that we can explain, and as people spread word of mouth, I think that that's going to be pretty reliably available to us to grow that way. I don't, that is not so much a concern for me as how do we split our efforts to both explain that well to the people who are in this space and want to make sure that they're investing in the things that um, are the best tech and have the most foresight, while also making it simple enough for somebody like your parents to look at it visually and say, okay, that looks professional. I don't understand it, but my family is telling me that I should try this out, and so I'm going to put a little bit in it, and then through the think about any tech or any innovation in the last in your lifetime that's come out. There's lots of things that we use now in our everyday lives that we would not have understood when it came out, and that most people didn't. But it got adopted through getting it in front of people's eyes or hands, and also through having good branding, having just consistently always putting out a very good, um, easily just clean looking brand that communicated what it was. And I think for traditional investors, that's going to be important because we can't necessarily use it's tempting to use the terminology of TradeFi, and use the terms of index funds and mutual funds and hedge funds and all that type of stuff, and you say this all of these things that wouldn't be available to you in traditional finance if you're not already um, well off and can afford to invest in a hedge fund, or you know um, if you're just an average investor, these things are all available to you in a way that's trustless, that you control your own money, that you can build your portfolio in the way you want to. Like you get to the end part of what I was just saying, and that's all stuff that we can explain. But like there's that sticky wicket of like, okay, well, you can't necessarily at this point just speak in the terminology of TradeFi. But if you try to speak in the terminology of DeFi and talk about vaults and containers and staking and all of that stuff, then people's eyes glaze over too. So I really think that we're in kind of like this transitionary stage where we have to um, figure out how to do a little bit of both things, where we're showing more than we're telling, and we're getting it in front of people's faces. So part of the why I think DeFIRE Academy is going to be really helpful with that is because the knowledge aspect of that is something that's really easy to advertise in Web2 spaces. Say, learn how to retire early with crypto on a banner in a traditional Google ad, or in a traditional space, and if it's done well, you can probably start getting clicks and getting flow through to a Web3 space and get them into a Discord, or at least get them connected to the DeFire Academy and have actual people from our community onboarding them. Um, so that's why drawing out this whole diagram, it's like fairly it's fairly obvious, in some ways, but then really the way that you think about the structure really affects how much energy you put into it, how effective it is to build out, to make it more extensible and more Web3. Um, so I think it's worth thinking about things on a really high level um, before we do I mean, obviously we still have to, while we're building that out, create videos and that are just explaining our specific product, that are just explaining our specific ecosystem. And so, that's something that we've also been working on. And before the pre-sale, we had talked to, we tried to reach out to Whiteboard Crypto, who apparently just stopped doing whiteboard services for other parties because he had a kid. So like a week or two ago, he announced that, and so that, I mean, it all makes sense now why he didn't respond to us. But so like then it would still be good to go and do whiteboard and have a really nice presentation. But we could also start off by doing some screencasts where we're just using you can use either um, our existing landing page or the landing page that should be forthcoming at any time now with the new design. And then, until the minimum viable product for Blaze Protocol is out and people can look at it, and we can do a screencast that way, we can probably use the same, Miro, the same app that I use to make this diagram, to build out like a conceptual product for what is just like what does a container look like, right? And then we go into like just like filling out what the UI would look like with all of the different parameters. And I actually had a conversation earlier with Phoenix about, hopefully soon getting some of these ideas for containers that have been floating around filled out as far as all of the parameters that will be in the analytics and the UI kind of filled out and then visualized and presenting that to people so that we can have a community conversation about what people like, what we could do better, what sources of if we're going to do something for stable coins, for instance, what protocols are offering the best deals. Are there people out there on Twitter who have already written threads about like what they've come across as the best, safest, highest APY opportunities? Just having that conversation as a community so that we can then um, get that all set up, and not just have that be a centralized kind of decision amongst a couple of people who are contributors, but to get the whole community's feedback in. So that's kind of bridging that academy versus just like um, community marketing, PR, like communications. Like it's kind of like it falls under knowledge. So I guess that's my area. but but yeah, that's kind of like where I see us kind of like providing value and creating content right now is like in this kind of not black and white. This is just a tutorial, you know, because we have graphic designers who are willing to help out. We have content creators that are willing to help out. Um, and until we have our first two protocols fully built out and we can start just doing screencasts where use video to just use highlights and online markers to like go through the website and explain everything, um, then we can do that, and then eventually we can have a bunch of scripts written out, that we can hand off to a whiteboard person to do the drawings and the voiceover and have everything be our brand. So um, that's the process that's going on right now. I'm really glad that so many of you dropped in to listen to what I've been thinking about, and I'm really interested to hear what your thoughts are on this. Um, I think we're lucky to be um, working together on a project where this is uh, a DAO 2 concept, and so all of your input really matters and is going to be a strength. So definitely make sure that you um, just even if it's just your reaction to what I'm talking about, make sure you put that out there and let us know um, your thoughts on everything. And this is going to be recorded, so you can go back, and other people who miss it can come back and listen to it. And then eventually, I'm hoping that I'll be able to figure out how to do video presentations that people can then see in the recorded version um, after the fact. So then that'll be providing more value for the AMAs. Right now, I'm just providing so when you watch the YouTube or you click into the AMA archives, it's just a still screenshot with voiceover. So hopefully at some point we'll be able to um, be able to do some video presentation as part of these AMAs. Let's see. Let's go back and forth between the general chat and questions to see if I'm missing anybody, and then go back and make sure that no one's raising their hand. Let's see. Okay, so then I had some other things that I wanted to. That's just some bullet points I was going to go through. Oh, okay. So I would love some feedback on this idea that I passed by a couple of people. So I'm thinking that I want to have a DeFIRE Academy day promo on Twitter. So one of the things that I want to build out for the academy is a resource database. So basically, it's just a Excel file full of different pages that have links to different subjects of the best video or articles that are unbiased, that aren't just reviews, but they're actual, really good stuff. And this goes back to what I was kind of talking about with siloed information all across DeFi. There's like Binance, or there's Phantom has some on all of the different blockchains. There's some authority that has created a academy or a learning center or whatever. And then, like more recently, on a protocol level, that started to happen, like with the Byte Masons having learn.bytemason, which I think those are great articles too. And of course, a lot of academies have great Medium profiles with lots of great content there. And so, but that's all you have to figure out where it is, right? There's nowhere to go, right? And that's part of why I'm interested in the DeFIRE Academy as a, not just a protocol specific project, but as a service to DeFi where we can crowdsource a tool. So the idea for the Twitter day would be that we would ask people to come on Twitter. We would link to the existing Google document of all the different links that I've currently amassed. And then anybody who replies to the tweet with a good quality piece of content that's not already been added to our database, and then also tags either the person who was the creator or the platform that was a creator, tag them if they have a Twitter handle, and then they could receive like one flare, and like so the first person to provide that in the feed in the Twitter replies would get a token, and then you wouldn't be able to like provide two separate pieces per week. It would just be one a week, and then whoever, if there was duplicates of the same article or video, it'd be whoever brought it first. So, it wouldn't be outrageous, but it would be fair. And, we've also talked about how we could make it a little bit more attractive as well, going down the road, to get more people to do it. I think obviously everyone in our ecosystem our community would be, definitely interested in doing that. And then other people might be interested in doing that as well, especially if they're getting good alpha from it. And then also, I think it's a way that we could potentially expand our attention from people, like some of the people who are the content creators that we would be tagging. So I think it would be a fun way for us to do more with our social media and providing a service, alert people to the fact that we're building out this tool, and help grow our project. So yeah, if anybody has any thoughts on that, it's a rough concept. It's not, it hasn't been planned yet, so I can't give you any sort of announcement about it or anything. But it's out there as a concept, and so if you would want to help me come up with a way of honing that in, that'd be great. Let's see, we're 30 minutes in. Good. Um, okay. I think I actually flew through a lot of what I wanted to talk about, which is good. Um, that was a good amount for me to be talking. And so now, um, I can go back anything that people missed who dropped in earlier, or if anybody has any questions, feel free to raise your hand. Um, but I'm gonna stop there because that was a lot, and we can always expand on that next week. And I have a feeling that some of the people here will probably come with really good ideas that I can respond to. So yeah, that's the beginning. That's where we're at right now. Um, probably like tangibly the first thing that will happen is just creating um, explainer videos and explainer graphics for Blaze. We've already started doing that to a certain degree as far as the explainer graphics. Um, but now that we've kind of gotten through the initial mad dash of the auction, and we're going to have kind of this rolling sale happening soon. Um, should be plenty of time to write out some scripts and find a good person to help us produce the video. And then I'm also researching platforms. Oh, that's another thing that people could help me with. So if anybody has any knowledge of a excuse me of a video course creation platform that they prefer, I've been looking at them. Um, so there is like Podia and Kajabi and Thinkific and Teachable. These are all some of the main ones. Um, if anybody has any experience with that, um, let me know because we're probably gonna over time put together a pretty extensive video library. Um, so yeah, any input on a on something that would work well for a Web3 project, that would be helpful. So let's see here. We've got a couple comments. Let's see. Cool. Thank you for listening. Um, thanks for the feedback. Yeah, I I will definitely. I'm trying to become more proficient in understanding smart contracts and all the different languages that you guys use, but I will definitely be leaning on you for the technical stuff. Oh, and that's actually, I just want to address that because I didn't. There's that one part of the DeFIRE flowchart that says Web3 coding and development knowledge. So that is something that the team has identified as another area of knowledge that there's some siloed information out there about how to get started in DeFi as a programmer, as a developer. And so we're going to try and develop those or aggregate those resources as well. And we'll probably need people to be able to provide real, you know, voice chat kind of information or to help us develop courses on that aspect of it. So you'll be able to help that way potentially if you can help us think think broadly about how to present that stuff. And I think after we have a more robust library of resources, then it'll become just more obvious where the holes are that we need to help fill with our own original content and with the help of creators that are out there that speak about this kind of stuff. Okay, so Broke Degen is typing and he's already um, it sounds like a great concept. The thread of info. Perhaps Reddit would be an easier format to keep track of this. Reddit could be used to organize it. Then link to Twitter with the TLDR so interested parties can sift through and look for articles they specifically need. Yeah, absolutely. I think Reddit's like definitely like that's the idea. So probably migrating the Twitter stuff. Um, if there's a way to integrate that, that would be great because the Twitter stuff is where there's the attention for crypto in terms of like people finding out about new spaces, but then Reddit's that deeper level where people really appreciate the knowledge that's being given away, and so there's kind of like a deeper connection that seems to happen on Reddit. People seem to be pretty loyal when they get into Reddit, so I think that's right. I think there's probably a lot to be done on Reddit as well. Um, yeah, I mean, Phoenix will tell you shoe size right now. Yeah, no problem. Um, for sure, we can build a wrapper of tools. Let's see. I don't know. I'm gonna try and not to say this too badly, but picunia dev, I'm guessing is how you say. Um, Sorry. We can get on a chat sometime, and you can like berate me for just butchering your handle. Anyway, so he says for sure we can build a wrapper of tools and articles to spread all the information needed. That's a good thing to discuss with Glitch in the future for sure, which we'll definitely do for sure. Broke Degen, thinking a bit ahead, a comment from my Discord got me thinking we could have experts dedicated to specific L1s and how to use them, the best protocols, and act as a sort of gatekeeper for new projects launching on the chain. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. And one of the things I was thinking about, and I know that Firefly has talked about this, and there's been conversations around the idea of how to start off with containers. And actually, Phoenix was the one who had mentioned that Liquid Driver had a contest for strategies. Whoever came up with the best strategies using the tools available on their DApp, and so I think it would be really good to take that knowledge. So if we have different people who are keeping up with what is the best on each L1. And so, say if we think that Phantom has, Liquid Driver or Beethoven X or um, something new that's happening with the new Spirit version coming out, all of the what's considered the blue chip type of projects, trying to see if they can't put those strategies in motion, if they wouldn't want to be involved in having them um, built out through us. And so, in addition to Phantom, then you have like Platypus Finance on AVAX, um, and then um, every chain is going to eventually have that go to, um, and at least for us, we'll have Polygon, Phantom, AVAX, and then I don't know at this point we really haven't had too much Ethereum like specific investor um, attention, but there's definitely like a lot of strategies on Ethereum to look at, and there may be partnerships available there if they can be cross-chained with a container. Let's see. All right, so I got off on a tangent there. So Broke DJ Nelson has following up that says Phantom has Phantom Alerts, who has interviews with the team launching their platform on Phantom so they can get information about their protocol and why it's worth investing into them. Not too many other chains have something like this. Totally agree. Totally don't understand why there's not a Polygon alerts and there's not a AVAX alerts. Like Phantom is so much. They're so far out ahead in terms of like just having. They're just louder, right? uh, yeah. So Austin's great. I wish everyone had an Austin repping their chain, and I think that like that needs to happen. Um, cool. I got close on your name. It sounds like. Um, cool, man. All right. I try hard because I got a really hard last name myself, so I always try. Um, Carlos is asking to get initial liquidity. Have we thought about initial LP boosts? Um, I don't know if we have, but I think that we should have that conversation. And I don't. So I'll talk with Phoenix about it afterwards. If there's a specific spot in the Discord that we need to have this conversation, because obviously tutoring, you know, Carlos, you and Cass are dropping a lot of great information, but like also we want to have this in the place where the most attention is happening, and so we have a lot of people who come into the general chat that don't ever make it to some of these other threads. So we'll have to see how we put this out there because the idea that I've had, I don't know when you came into the conversation, if I said it maybe before you came in, but my idea is like that we get this crowdsourcing from the community going on like, okay, here are the best ideas. Somebody draw out visually draw out a representation of what this container might look like if you were looking on the DApp at it. Because obviously we have to develop the DApp. We can't just, you know, I guess it's usually you make the back end and then you put on the front end later. So it's going to be hard for us to like give people, you know, the DApp to look at visually and then like fill in, containers that aren't working yet or something like that. We're going to have to like draw them out in Miro or some other diagramming app but I think that's going to be important for people who are, maybe not super advanced on the tokenomics side to be able to grasp it visually so that they can, because that even if they can't even if they aren't tokenomics people, they may still have good thoughts on, well, I'm on this chain and this is a really good opportunity. We want to make sure we give everybody an opportunity to give their feedback on these containers so that when we get it that minimum viable product put out, that people are actually, in our own community really hyped about it because they felt like, everybody worked together, everybody listened, and we put something out that we believe, is going to have real value to anybody in whatever chain they tend to be native to. Yeah, and I totally agree. Like my own like brainstorms about ideas for containers have really focused around um, assets that allow us to pull in liquidity, right? Like obviously that was like the winning solution for Urn. It was a winning solution for Beethoven X and Balancer. Alchemix, for Anchor. It's like just focusing on things where you can just have a black hole of liquidity is always a great idea. And so yeah, I don't think it doesn't need to be that we have high complexity strategies to begin with. If it's a simple strategy that provides the best return, yeah. Either way, it's so I think it's just a great conversation to have. Um, can build a static wave front end without connections to the back end and gives users some ideas of what to expect. I think it's better than just a Miro. Totally. Hey, Quenya, if you can, I mean, if you want to talk to Glitch about doing that, hey, I'm not gonna tell you no, man. But I know that you guys are running flat out right now. So if it creates hiccups, then it's not, we could figure it out. But like that would be awesome to be able to have the visual. Because I think, for my background's in education to a certain degree. I spent a little bit of time teaching university type stuff and being on that level. And so like when you're talking about like how people learn and how people ingest information, you got to do it in all ways. Some people will really appreciate having the conversation in real time, like in this AMA. Other people, will prefer to go through afterwards and look at whatever visual stuff we have, or they prefer to read our Medium articles. Like to be effective in education, you got to have like a shotgun approach and give everybody an opportunity where they're at. Um, Go back and finish reading what you were talking about there. Um, I I have not done a lot of research lately, so I'm not up on Sturdy Finance or Linflare, but I will definitely look them up after the AMA, and and then I will reach out to you and get your thoughts on those. Um, because I mean, that's what needs to happen. Like people like you just throwing out those names and then getting other people who can think about these things deeply, who have a background in thinking about tokenomics and putting together strategies to just like work out the details of like how would this work, how safe would it be, you know, all of the things that we need to figure out in order to put together the containers. Um, Broke Degen, thanks for coming in, man. Really, really happy that you made it and looking forward to talking to you about it some more. Oh, cool. All right. Carlos is on it with the visuals. Cool. Um, asset pools. Cool. Um, let's see. USD, UST, die. Cool. Yeah. Looks like there's some good liquidity there. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a good question to have, a good conversation to have with like Glitch and the people putting this together too, like Phoenix too. I mean, but just talking about like what's the minimum threshold for liquidity that, like, if we're going to be, dabbling in LPs, and you're going to take a big, you're going to put a big chunk in on that. How's that going to affect the pool? So like, as a strategy, how big does the protocol you're working with need to be in order to interact with it? Um, okay, cool. Cool. Everybody go check out the link that Phoenix put in on the light paper. It's in the tutoring channel. Okay, Carlos thinks that we should always shoot for higher than 20% APY on the kinds of strategies that he just put out there. Um, and that one was for Lynn Flare, which I definitely agree. I mean, when people talk about Anchor, they talk about getting 20% on stables on Anchor. So I think that 20% is definitely not only from a practical and economic standpoint, but just from the standpoint of marketing and what people think of that are already in the space as like what's an acceptable number. It seems like a number that's acceptable. Um, Left foot at 1 million raised. Um, See, I told you to tell you. I guess I lied though because you can't really find out until we get to a million TVL on April the 11th or whenever we open back up the sale. Um, I don't think we can axe him from the multi-sig at this point. I think that's done. Man, that's getting testy. Getting testy. Let's see. Cool. So Phoenix is adding in some information from Root 25's Twitter feed on Anchor. And Anchor is definitely going through some changes right now. Um, right. Yeah, totally true, Phoenix. It will be interesting to see if Anchor can keep it up. I mean, that's going to be a really big test for. I mean, there's a lot of other people who are kind of following Anchor's lead a little bit there with the way that they're generating the APR. Let's see if I checked it. Okay, looks like I haven't missed anything in general yet. Come on. Uh, Minimum assets supplied for a container. I would assume so. Yeah, I think that's part of like why we have the MVP parameters that we do. I don't know if there's been a formal conversation. I think I've talked to people in the asset management thread, maybe, but I don't think there's been any kind of like conversation outside of like maybe the team informally. So that's I mean, and there may be more conversations that have been had that I don't know about because I'm not like a core member of the asset management team. So it's a good question. Phoenix or Firefly may be able to give you a better answer than I can. Um, I don't have the number, but we can definitely find that out. What the ballpark is for the minimum assets supplied per container. Um, let's see. This may become just a conversation between Phoenix and Carlos. That's awesome, man. I mean, this is probably the best AMA we've had so far. So this is great. Hopefully, we can keep building on this because you know this is where we need to get our we need to extract value out of these things. Um, so let's see. Yeah, Phoenix is the secret ingredient to the AMAs. Definitely, definitely. Tantalizing shoe size taunts. Um, what more could you ask for? Um, let's see. Oh, seeing if I missed anything on the server. Okay, cool. I think I'm all caught up except for conversation we're having and questions. Okay, cool. It looks like we're coming to a good stopping point here. I mean, there's some work to be done. We've established on getting the container conversation going. I think we'll figure out where in the server we're going to have this more kind of open conversation about developing the containers. I know probably some of that will happen in asset management, but we definitely, hopefully we can build out something that everybody can look at and interact with. And we'll keep keep talking about the details, like Carlos has been kind of breaking into here, because that's what we need to do so that we can be ready with the MVP whenever Glitch is good to go with that. So, um, guys, is there any other questions at the moment? Um, if you want to raise your hand, that's fine. Otherwise, seems like it's probably a good time to wrap up if no one has any other questions. Awesome, awesome conversation, guys. Thank you for being here. We'll do this again next Thursday. I assume we'll just keep the conversation going on both the Blaze containers and the AMA, or excuse me, the Academy stuff that we talked about today. Um, yeah, I'm gonna wrap up my video for the week, and then you guys can hang out for a couple more minutes. Otherwise, we will see you next week.